Hi, Steve Smith here. I am your CAD tech guru. Today I've got a little project I'm working on. This is going to be a more advanced level for people who already have or familiar with CAD and drafting techniques and things like that. I'm just going to be showing you some techniques that I use to lay out site plans, and I'm going to be going through, this is part one of a two-part video. So I'm going to be going through doing a block out of a new restaurant in a new development. So let me switch over to my screen here. I'll show you what we've got to work with here. Okay, so this is a developer's file that I've been sent of a new development. I've already gone through the process of cleaning this up and getting it ready for the block out. So this is the site that we're going to go on. This is the building that I'm using right here. And you can see the property line here is already defined. Let me just clean that up just a little bit. Okay, so you can see my property line I've already got defined, and this is pretty much, this is kind of ugly right there. Let me just explode all that so that it goes a little thinner like a regular line. Okay, so this is my site. These blue lines here are my property lines. These other lines that you see here, these are easements going on. You can see that one was labeled as an electric easement. This is part of that, I believe. This right here is an easement running through the site for a storm sewer, I believe, and then it comes out through here. So we're not going to be able, we can put parking and on that, but we cannot put the building on that. So we got to make sure we keep the building off of that. Back here is some sort of setback. I'm not exactly sure what kind of setback it is, but as you can see, the way the developer has laid this out, most of their parking is staying quite a bit off of that. So what I'm going to do with our layout is sort of match the same on the front, the rear, and on the side. I'm just going to match the same, approximately the same distance that they've got here. Over here I'm going to do our standard, which is to stay about 5 feet off of the property line. So the first thing I'm going to do, I like to go through and just erase these kinds of things just so that I'm getting a clean start and my drawing will be a little more, perfect. I'll check the distances on these. That's an 18-foot. It looks like they're using 9x18 parking, which is our typical parking also. Hopefully this is 24 feet. Yeah, we've got about 24-foot drive, so that all looks pretty standard for what we use. Now I can already tell we're probably going to have a little bit of a problem with our truck, because we like to get a truck to come through here and sort of we've got to make a route that goes through it, and that route usually needs a 30-foot radius on there. So already I'm thinking we're going to have to come through here with the truck and circle around. I'm probably going to do a very similar layout to what they've got here, but that truck is going to have to go around the entire site and then come back out. As far as I know right now, the cross access here and the one access point down here is all we're going to have, so I'm going to have to keep that. So I'm going to pause this for 1 second, and then I'm going to install my truck program so that I'll be able to run that without stopping. Okay, I've got the truck software installed. You can see right here it's called AutoTurn, so I'll be able to use this to run a truck through our site after I get the blocked out version done and make sure that that's going to work before we continue on any further. So I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning this mess up here. I'll erase some of this. I'll go back in and redo all this. I'm going to keep those lines over there because I want to match where that's at anyway. Of course, you know, I'm just going to pull new lines across that. So I'm going to turn these layers off just to get them out of my way. This, I'm going to do a distance on this just to see about how far off that is. 19.7 and some change. So I'll make this 20-foot setback off of that curb line. Oh, I just noticed there is another access point up here. I didn't see that before. So that's going to help us with our truck. But we do need the truck to get around the back. Let's layer that off just to get it out of the way for now. Alright, I'm going to use a fence so I can just drag across all that. I'll tie into that in a minute. There's the fence. Alright, now let's get that guy out of our way too. Alright, I'm not sure what this is. Probably some kind of entry feature or something. I'm going to leave that there for now. Okay, so I'm going to set my snap angle to the property line and draw a line that comes straight out of there. So that's where, let me get on the right layer. When I'm drawing a block out, I like to keep myself on the on my curbs layer. So now my current layer will be on my curbs layer, and I've got that on the curbs layer. Now they're not drawing the backs of curbs, and I want backs of curbs on mine, so I'm going to move this out another 6 inches to account for the curb. Set my snap angle down on this side and do the same thing with this, just so that I'm matching about the same thing. And then I'm moving this up 6 inches to account for the curb. Now over here I had said I wanted to maintain about 20 feet. Let me explode to make sure all that's exploded. I'm going to set my snap angle to this property line and draw myself a clean line here that goes across there, and then I'm going to move that over 20 feet. So it'll be 20 feet from front of curb to front of curb. So it'll actually only be 19 feet of actual green space in the middle. Now our over here, I'm just going to offset 5 foot 6 inches. So that'll give me 5 foot of green space on this side. After I go back and offset my 6-inch curve back in there, I'll be left over with 5 feet. So offset 18 feet for parking. All the way around the perimeter is usually the most efficient. And then I'll set 24 feet for a drive aisle. So these are where my drive aisles are going to be. So just so this doesn't get confusing, I'm going to go ahead and erase that first line and get that back of that parking out. We're just going to be concentrating on drive aisles. So I'm going to fill it a 10-foot radius around that for now. And you know, we'll just call these 0-foot radiuses for now. So that's basically where I'm going to be laying out. Now this curved line is coming around right in here. Looks like I might have accidentally lost that one. So I'm going to extend to this curve there. So that is going to be the access point on that side. There's my 10-foot radius. I'll come back in and put radiuses on those in a second. And then over here, I'm going to extend that drive aisle out to there, trim that out, put my 10-foot radius in there. So that is the basic drive aisles going through there. Now, I'm going to layer everything back on so I can see this easement. I'm going to move the building over in here. We're going to want it to face this direction because this is where the main road is. and I'm going to use the align command to align it with this curb line. So there we are in alignment. Let me go back and make sure my snap angle's set right. So we don't have a lot of room to work with here. I'm curious here to see if I'm even going to be able to get any parking on the front. 18 foot, that would be nice if we could get that to work. We're going to need a 7-foot sidewalk. I'm going to offset 7'6" to account for a curb line, or actually we're going to do a 0 curb line up here and slope the spaces up so that we don't have to have ramps. So I'm just going to offset 7 foot. So that's about where my sidewalk's going to be. Really don't want to get up on that easement here. We're going to want to scoot over here. We're going to want 18 foot on this side for another row of parking, so we're going to want to get over there anyway. If I had 7'6" for a curb and sidewalk, then we're going to want at least 5 foot additional space there for green space. So I can push this building over a little bit. I'm getting pretty tight down here with the service yard. Let's just see if we can get another double bay of parking over here. So I'm going to go 18 feet offset twice, and then 24 feet for another drive aisle. And you can see that is getting pretty tight. Even if I didn't get any parking over here, I would still want, see, that's getting way too tight over here. I don't think we're going to have room to make that work. So it would make more sense to get a row of parking down here and a row of parking up here and center the building on that. Kind of like this. And maybe we can get some more parking in on here, or we're going to have to tuck this service yard up in here a little bit. I'm thinking we're going to want to mirror this building also to get the to-go over on this side, because this is the main entry and we're going to want the to-go over there. Plus we'll be putting the service yard back over on this side so that it's not as visible from the main entry. So let's do that real quick. I'm just going to edit this. Make sure your snap angle's at 0. I'm going to go ahead and mirror the block. And then I'm going to want to mirror all this back so I don't mess that up. Alright. Block editor. Alright, so now we've got our mirror. I've got this frozen, by the way, just so it's not getting in the way, bogging things down. Okay, so let's set the snap angle back to the front here. We're getting tight in the back, so we've got a little room in the front. I'm going to just push that up just a tad, and then just to try to get things centered up on the pad, I'm going to push that down just a little bit, so I'm kind of centered between here and here. And I think that's about the best we're going to get out of this one. Now, as far as the block out purposes, when we have that sidewalk running across here, I'm going to want that to keep running back out. So it's going to be a 7-foot sidewalk. So I'm going to want to offset 8 feet to account for a 6-inch curb on either side and a 7-foot sidewalk, so that'll end up being 8 feet. So I'm going to offset 8 feet and trim that off right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Just trim that off right there. So that is where that row of parking will start when it goes back down this way. Same thing here. Now we need to get this service yard to work in here. And right now it's kind of sticking out in the back. I do have a staggered kind of service yard that we could use in here, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. I'm going to do a ref edit so that I can edit this block in place of the building, and then I'm just going to move all of this. We don't want those doors to move. So let's deselect that. Alright, so let's just push this out like this. I'm going to rotate all that about another -30 degrees. I may not need that much. Let's push it back about 10 degrees. And then I'm just going to move it in here. I'm using move previous in order to reselect that. I think something like that. Let's try to tuck it back up in this way a little further. I think something like that's probably going to work pretty good. Now I can't pick all this stuff. Let's go ahead and move this out separately. Let's leave that alone. Maybe we can find a place down here to put it. I really don't want to stick that out too much further than it already is. Where can this go? This is some type of storage unit that they have out there. I'd like to align it with the building. So I'm using the align command. Move previous. Rotate previous. Let's go -90 to face it that way. This thing's not really fitting over here very well. Guess we might be able to get it up in here. If I move it up here. Not a lot of room up there either. Sometimes these things get tight. If I put it down here, we're not going to have a lot of room. I suppose I could have this right on the edge, but that's not of the drive aisle, but that's not really a good way to make this work. So what's going to be the best way to do this? I might need to use the, I'm going to go off on my side screen here. I've got a block of a staggered dumpster. So I'm going to open that up real quick. Maybe this will allow us a little more room here. So I'm just going to cut and paste that. Drop it in here. Rotate previous. Let me undo that because I don't want it on top like that. I want to be able to grab it. So I'm going to paste it in a little over to the side here. And then let's rotate that. Let's do that again. I'm going to go back 90 degrees. Let's go 45. Okay, I'm going to align previous. I want to get this in alignment with the building. And we'll just see if that works any better. There we go. We'll move that out of the way. Let's move all this out of the way. I'm just going to move it up here for now in case I need it again. I've got another one of these right there, so I won't need that. Don't need this. Alright, so is this going to work any better? I'm going to grab a hold of just this part of it. And if that were to come right off of that, I would want this to be some, a little bit off of the drive aisle. So let's go in like that. Woo, this is tight. It's a tight fit, guys. Let's push this out a little bit. I think we might be able to make this work. I'm going to get on this. I keep all this stuff on the 0 layer, so I'm going to get on the 0 layer and draw this off of there. I'm going to set my offset distance the same as that. offset that far, fillet radius 0. So we don't have a lot of room here. Let me just make sure we've got enough. You know, it's a couple feet. Let me move this out a little more. These can get tricky. I'm just going to come out a little more like that, just to give us a little more room walking through there. Just that. And now we'll have room up here for this storage box. I guess we'll have to make a wall coming straight out of here. We'll just stick with what we've got there for that. I think this might work better if we rotate it. 90 degrees like that, and then I'll just push it up into the corner here like that. So that's gonna have to do. Let's move this door up into here. We're gonna want to rotate that around. I'm just gonna tell it 180 degrees, and then I'm gonna align it into here. And this is just a graphical representation of a temporary entry point. So I'll just leave it just like that for now. When I erase all this, and that's going to have to do for now. So we'll see what they say about that. Let's save that. Alright, so I'm going to set my snap angle to that. I'm going to get back on this layer for my curves, and I'm just going to draw a line out here like this, and for this one I'm just going to go straight out like that. Well, man, I'm not going to get much of a radius at all right there. Tell you what, let's come down like this and just put a small radius going into that. Here, I'm going to go with the 10-foot radius, soften that out, and that is what is going to happen there. Okay, now, this, I'm going to put a 3-foot radius on that. We'll tie into that way. I'm going to put a 10-foot radius here to tie in, trim that out. Put another 10-foot radius here, so there's my cross-access point. Now, the next thing I'm going to want to do here is bring my truck in and get it to make these corners, because we're going to need some big old gnarly corners going through here to get the truck to go. Usually what I'll try is a 30-foot radius, kind of like this. Sometimes that doesn't work. I'm going to trim that out and put a big 30-footer on there. So let's run the truck through and just see if that'll work. So the way I'm going to do that is using auto turn. I've already got my specs set. This is one of the biggest trucks, biggest 18-wheelers out. So I'm just going to come up in here and let's click that on. And let's see if I can make these turns. We're going to have to go wide. So we'll bring it around this way. This program kind of bogs down on me a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to see what's going on. So we're going to want to hug this as tight as we can. But then once we get up in here, that's about as far as we can go there. So see, we might need a little bit bigger of a radius on that one. Excuse me, this is why I like to do this in the blockout stage, to find these problems now before I get too much drawn. So if I bring this about there, that one should work. Just barely. Alright, let's bring it around this way. A little more like that. So see, I'm really probably going to need more like 35-foot radiuses. Alright, I'm going to stop it right there. So now we got an idea of what that truck is going to do. We're going to need to shave this down quite a bit. So I'm going to extend this curb line out to there and try a 40-foot radius. Oh, I wonder if 35 will work. 35. That's close, but barely. I'm going to put a 10-foot radius on this one. So that'll look something like that. I'll clean that up later. Alright. This one, it's encroaching a little bit, so let's just knock that out to 35 just so we've got some room for play. I'll do the same thing here. Change that to 35. I'm going to trim this out. And put that on a 30. We don't even need 35 there. It's because I came out so far with it. This was set as a polyline, so I'm just going to explode that and match it back. Yeah, that other line out there was already set as a polyline. This one probably is too. I'm going to go ahead and explode it. And I'll just put the 10-foot radius on this side. I'll clean that up later when I do the backs of curves. So out here, I'm going to have a row of parking 18 feet. I always like to offset these again after I put the radiuses in, because that's really where the row of parking is going to start. So that gives me a more accurate representation of where it's going to be. Now I don't think I'm going to be able to run this parking all the way out here. Typically we won't run it any further than this point. So I'm just going to go perpendicular there and trim that off. So that's where that row of parking will be. That one will be there. I'm not sure we really have enough room to do any back there. 18 feet back here. So that's where that row of parking will be. And then we'll have another row over here, and it'll stop about here because of that truck radius. And then 18 feet up here. We're going to want to stay off 5'6" over here. So I'm just going to offset 5'6", and then just trim that off like that. Erase that. So we're going to want to stop about right there so that we have our 5 foot of green space. And then up here, same thing I did on the other side. We don't want to extend past about that point. So we'll trim that off. And that shows where that row will end. So this is the level that I would consider to be blocked out, to where we can see pretty accurately exactly what's going to happen here. So I think that's pretty much going to do it. This is the block out process, part 1 of this video. In the next video, part 2, I'll go through this same site and show you how to complete the graphics part of it before we start adding all the notes and all that sort of thing. So thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe the video if this was helpful for you. Leave comments down below if of any other topics that you'd like me to discuss. If you let me know, I'll include those in some of my upcoming videos. So again, I'm Steve Smith. I'm your CAD Tech Guru. Thanks for watching.